As we lead up to Season 3 of Dying to Tell You, we've decided to re-release some earlier episodes of our guests who have died in an effort to highlight and honor those stories. If you've started listening recently, this is a way for you to catch up. If you've listened from the beginning, listen again and see if you, as I do, notice something new when you listen a second time. This week we're re-releasing my interview with Linda. Linda's interview was wonderful and fun and came out at a time when the message I got from her story was very helpful in my personal life. You can listen to my reflection on Linda's interview for more about that. This is also a special episode because Linda died a few months after this interview, and Linda's daughter Amy recorded an interview with me in which she tells the story of Linda's death. If you want to learn more about the medical aid in dying process, or just hear how a family navigates mishaps with joy and love, listen to Amy's episode. Please enjoy this conversation with Linda.
You know, tears don't stain anything, even pillowcases. Right. And it's a good release to cry or scream. Mm-hmm. I did that once with a couple of friends of mine around, and Linda, let it out. And I said, okay. And I let out this huge scream, and both of them looked at me like, what?
Not like that, Linda.
What? You know, it's like, yeah, okay, I'm fine now. You know, I let it all out. That's so,
nice. That's good.
Yeah.
A new diagnosis has a way of clarifying the things that are important. We all age. We all get sick. We all die. There's deep meaning to be found in living with a serious illness. There's fun to be had in someone's last days. And there's a lot to be learned from a person whose finish line is in sight. The conversation you're about to hear is about sharing experiences, finding what's meaningful, leaving space for sadness, leaning into grief, laughing about absurdities, and thinking together about an experience that we will all have someday. My name is Cody Huffstedler. I'm a palliative care chaplain in Denver, Colorado, and I interview people who are coming to the end of their life. My good friend Andy is a palliative care physician. He's very generous and really believes in what we're doing here, so he's been on the lookout for patients that would be willing to share their stories with us on the podcast. A few weeks ago, Andy sent me a text with a name and a phone number, so I called Linda. After about 5 minutes of chatting with Linda, I knew she would be perfect for the podcast. She's thoughtful, open, authentic, and fun. So about a week after our first conversation, Chris and I went to Linda's house in Denver and sat down at her dining room table to talk about her life. There was a lot of laughter, a few tears, and a fair bit of profanity. Shit, damn, hell was a bit of a refrain in our conversation, and it was just right. I hope you hear the authenticity, wrestle with the sadness and anger, and bask in the joy as Linda shares her life with us. And I hope you're inspired by her desire to serve others, even as she comes to the end of her life. This is Dying to Tell You.
All right, so you're Linda.
Yes.
I'm Cody. Let's talk a little bit about the first time that you noticed something that made you go to the doctor, that made you think something might be wrong.
Okay. Well, to begin with, being female, I tend to go to the doctor more often than, other people do. But I had blood in my urine.
Oh, okay.
And it didn't seem to go away, so I called the doctor, made an appointment. We did urinalysis and blood test. Came back with nothing wrong. So another month went by, and same thing, just kept going, and same thing, more tests and or blood test and urine test, and nothing. They couldn't find anything, and I finally said, there's something wrong because it wouldn't be going on this long. So that's when I went in for a CT scan, and the CT scan came back, and the radiologist who looked at it said, oh, no, everything's fine. And my doctor in California said, I think I'm going to send this to my friend who's a urologist and have him look at it. And he said, oh, heck no, it's not fine. There's definitely a problem.
Gotcha.
So more tests and that kind of thing. And then that's when they decided that I had kidney cancer.
Yeah. You were living in California at that point.
Yes.
And had you lived in California for a long time?
I'm basically a native Californian, and other than, well, it's hard to say, add up all the years because my dad was in the military.
Yeah, okay.
And so we spent a lot of time traveling. Went to Santa Barbara, was there for 30 years, then met my late husband, and I moved to a little town called Yucaipa and lived there for 30 years.
Okay.
And now I'm here.
Great. And you got this diagnosis after, it sounds like a couple of months worth of looking into what was the problem.
It was months because that started in February, and they removed my right kidney on September 21st, 2021.
Okay. Was that when you got the urologist to look at the CT scan, or was that later?
It's more like April or May that he looked at it. Yeah.
In May, the urologist looks at the scan and says, that is not okay. You have cancer. And then what was the process from there? So you get that, and you're living alone at that point?
I had a boyfriend who lived with me.
Okay.
Not anymore, but he
Gotcha.
was then.
Okay. And what was that like? I mean, was that a surprise to you? Were you worried about that it might be cancer at some point?
Cancer always is one of those things that tends to creep in the back of your head. That maybe I have cancer. Maybe I have cancer. And it was one of those that, okay, you have cancer. It's like, well, crap.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What are we going to do?
The crap, was that fear or frustration or?
Yes.
Yeah,
it
both,
was all of the above. It was, nobody in my family my immediate family has had cancer. And so, although my late husband died from prostate cancer, but like I said, none of my sisters, my mother, grandmothers, any of those people. And so it was, I was scared.
Yeah.
What do we do now? So, of course, the first thing I do is get on the phone or FaceTime with both my kids,
mm-hmm.
because I'm pretty close with both of them. And so we make team decisions. Sometimes I make my own. Irritates them sometimes, but it's like, okay, I'm the mom.
Right. Yeah.
It's like I tell them, I can give you advice, and if you follow it, fine. If you don't follow it, that's fine too. You can give me advice, and if I follow it, cool. And if not, don't get mad at me.
Yeah.
But anyway, so they scheduled the surgery, and my daughter came out, and she's fortunate now in that she's got a job where she can work remotely from time to time.
Mm-hmm.
So she was there for about a week and then came back home because she's got a family that she needs to take care of.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't do well without mom. I don't do well without the mom either.
Yeah.
Anyway, so with my recovery, I slowly but surely got better.
And so you had a kidney taken out,
Mm-hmm.
right? So you had a tumor in one kidney,
yes.
and it was contained in the kidney,
yes,
as far as you knew,
right?
And you had that kidney taken out, and you told me before that they said that they got it, right?
Yeah,
and
the margins were clean and clear, and all that stuff.
And after a recovery, you were expecting that you were going to be cancer free,
right, and live for 20 more years.
Yeah. Okay. And so you had the surgery, and then your recovery. How was that?
That there were times when it was kind of rocky, but that was mainly because of the person that was living in my house.
Gotcha.
And the difficult relationship there. But, it was, I had a lot of friends that helped to support me. That was wonderful. And I'm a member of the Lions Club. And so I have lots of Lions friends who helped with my recovery, whether it was just getting cards in the mail or phone calls or text or something. And then my church family was a godsend, that they helped so much with, do you need food? Do you need this? Do you need that? So, life went on, and I seemed to be doing just fine with, the recovery. And I was district governor, which was very stressful.
Yeah.
And took me...
This is for the Lions Club?
Yes, for the Lions Club. And 4 times a year, you have to travel to conventions, and which means flying. But I fortunately, there again, I had a friend, and he would make sure that he took care of my luggage and made sure that I, got on the plane with no problem and got off the plane with no problem and all that kind of stuff. So, we're a fraternity of wonderful people because, our motto is we serve.
Right.
And so I did that I finally retired June 30th of this last year of 23. And it was in February or March of 23, because I would go in for regular checkups, and there was a problem again. I found out the cancer had come back and had metastasized in my lung.
Okay.
My right lung.
So you had the surgery, and then you had October, November, December, January, where everything was fine.
About a year.
Yeah. And then something happened. Was it trouble breathing or anything like that?
No, I have never had problems breathing. I've never had problems, in the bathroom area. None of that stuff. It just, it's blood in the urine and that kind of thing that triggers things.
Yeah. Sure.
So they started running tests again, and sure enough. And then they did... I probably shouldn't tell this, but you can edit it out if you want. No, when I went in for the lung biopsy, they had to go through my right breast.
Okay.
And so the doctors and the nurses that were in there happened to be all male. And the doctor apologized for having to expose me. And I said, honey, if you are interested in old saggy boobs like mine, then you're the one with the problem, not me. So, do what you need to do. He blushed at first, and then he laughed, and the other guys were already laughing. And I thought, life is just too short. I obviously, with you, I've made a lot of jokes, and I will continue to make jokes and try to make people laugh, because it makes me laugh and it makes me feel better.
Good. Yeah. All right, so a biopsy through the boob, and then they tell you your cancer from your kidney has spread to your lungs.
Right.
Again, I'm curious. I mean, I can imagine a lot of things going through my mind if that was me. But what was that emotion? What was your emotional reaction like? I mean, again, fear, anger. I can imagine being angry about it, frustration. Yes.
I was angry at the doctors because I had been told, we got everything, you're good to go have a good life. And I was frustrated because it didn't go away. I was scared because it's like, oh my gosh, the stuff has come back again. What am I going to do? How am I going to take care of this? How am I going to go through all this alone? Mm-hmm. Because by then my boyfriend was out of the house. Mm-hmm. And so, again, I, FaceTimed both my kids and, kind of sat on it for a week.
Oh, before you told them?
No, before we finally made a decision, because I didn't want to rush into making any kind of a decision on a snap.
Right.
We all needed to pray about it, and we needed to just I don't want to say rest with it, but just be with it for a little bit. So at that point, we had already come up with, I could stay at the house and go through this by myself, and Amy could come out when she could. And my son lives in Australia, so him coming up on a regular basis it's really expensive from that end coming up here. So then we made the decision that I would transfer to Kaiser, Colorado, and move in with Amy and her family.
I think I want to talk a little bit about this like week-long period of just getting the diagnosis and telling your kids, and then just sitting with it for a week. I think that is so smart. I know you're thinking also that you're going to have to make big changes because of, going through this alone versus not going through this alone, all that. But it's just so smart to take a beat and not make decisions based on these big emotional reactions. I mean, you just gotten the word that you have cancer.
Again.
Again, right. And that's a big deal. Is that kind of taking a moment, is that something that you've done all your life? Or is that something that you learned? Or is that something that just came to you at that time that you wanted to take a minute?
Yes, and yes.
Okay. Tell me a little bit. Yeah.
Because I do make snap decisions, and sometimes I am really sorry for them.
Okay.
Other times I sit on it, and then it's, too late. I've waited too long to make a decision. And, but this one, I felt that the best thing to do was for all of us just to sit with it and think about it and pray about it and see where we are in a week, so that we're not, because it's too big a change in my life for me to just say, okay, that's it. I'm doing this.
Yeah.
When doing that would be better for me in the long run.
Of course.
There's too much, been so many changes already.
Yeah.
Cancer alone was a big enough change.
Yeah.
The self is disconnected, all the things we had perfected when the wind changed with all its might. I think we better learn sometime. I think we better learn sometime. Now we're walking through the courtyard and leaves roll over our shoestrings. So we speak of family and love. The only true thing.
When you got the diagnosis the second time, all those emotions came up. I think, especially for me, kind of listening to you tell this, the emotion that comes up for me is like anger and frustration, thinking, shouldn't somebody have caught this? Like, shouldn't somebody have done something about this before it got to this point?
Exactly.
Was that what it was?
Yes.
Yeah.
And because if they had, then I wouldn't be where I am now.
Right.
And, why didn't they, just as a precaution, give me chemo or radiation or something when I had my kidney removed? It's like, well, damn, come on, people. Let's do some proactive things.
Right.
And it's not necessarily Kaiser's fault, but I also know how they tend to err on the side of big time caution.
Yeah.
And that was not in the books.
I get that reaction because that's the reaction that I'm having as I'm listening to you tell it. I also know that you have, you can still have that feeling, but it's not really doing you any good to look back and second guess what happened. So I imagine you gave yourself some time to be angry about it, but it seems like you've kind of moved on from that. Would you talk about that? Like, when did you come to that realization that, you can't change what's happened and you got to do something moving forward?
Right. It's just maybe that's my upbringing, is that with my father having been in the military, and we moved every 2.5 years, usually, because I went from kindergarten to high school, I went to 23 different schools.
Holy shit.
So, yeah. So you move on.
Yeah.
And you let the anger pass when you lose friends, because not only do you move, but then so do they. And besides that, it does no good to stay angry.
Yeah.
I'm done being angry. I'm done being frustrated.
Mm-hmm.
It's time to move on.
Yeah.
Because like I say, anger does you no good.
No.
It doesn't
No.
help. It doesn't help your mind heal. It doesn't help your body heal.
Mm-hmm.
And holding all that in. There are times when I still get very angry and very frustrated, but I try not to hang on to it.
Mm-hmm. I would be interested to know if you can tell us how you managed to not hang on to it. What you're describing to me is anger is not useful. It's not helping you do anything. It's not constructive. And in a moment when you realize that your life might be shorter than you expected, there's not a lot of time to be wasted. Wasting energy on an emotion that's not helpful to you doesn't seem like a great way to do it.
No, it's not. And I don't have one specific way that I let anger go, except maybe sometimes at night I cry.
Yeah.
I do that by myself just because, and although sometimes I get emotional like I am now. But tears are okay.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with them. And, but like I say, just letting that anger and the frustration and because I saw it in my ex-boyfriend, the wanting to take revenge on people for having done something to him when he was a teenager, and the man's now 65 years old.
It's a long time to carry that around.
It's like carrying a ton of boulders around with you. It just doesn't do any good. So if you have to write down on a piece of paper all the things that frustrate you, and then once a week or once a month or once every couple of months or whatever, take those slips of paper and burn them and let them go. I mean, I've heard all kinds of ways to let the frustrations and the anger go, because it isn't productive.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a waste of time.
Yeah. Thanks for saying that tears are okay. I think people feel like sometimes I have to be strong for this person or that person, or I have to put on a good face for people. I mean, on the one hand, you do have to live your life and you've got to be able to participate in whatever is happening. But every now and then, allowing the tears to come is okay. I think can be really healing.
Yes, and tears don't stain anything, even pillowcases. Right. And it may mess up your mascara or something, but other than that, it's a good release to cry or scream. Mm-hmm. Every once in a while, go out in the backyard and just scream.
Yeah,
I did that once with a couple of friends of mine around, and Linda, let it out. And I said, okay. And I let out this huge scream, and both of them looked at me like, what?
Not like that, Linda.
What? It's like, yeah, okay, I'm fine now. I let it all out.
That's nice. That's good.
Yeah.
When you heard that it had metastasized to your lungs, did the doctors say anything about this is treatable, this is something you can live with, or this is something that you can't live with, or that will take your life? Did they give you any kind of prognosis, anything like that?
The oncologist in California said maybe 5 years if you're lucky. And I thought, okay, well, 5 years, I'm 72. That takes me to 77. I can get a lot done in that time.
Yeah.
Not thinking that, chemotherapy and that kind of stuff and what that does to your body. When I came out here, my oncologist said he's never seen anyone live more than 3.
Okay.
So I'm thinking, well, sorry, shit, damn hell.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is just really screwing me up. It's like, okay, well, let's try the chemo.
Okay. So in that week, you're thinking, okay, I'm going to have to go through this. What is this that you think you're going to have to go through? Treatment Is that what you're?
Yes.
Is that what you're thinking?
Yes, that's what we all decided, and I said when we all, it's my family, that we would go through treatment.
Okay.
That chances are I would come here to Kaiser, Colorado, to do the treatment, so that I would have someone around to take care of me, and then it was, planning to move here.
Right.
And what was that going to look like? Because I was living in 1,500 square feet all by myself.
By yourself.
So, I have and had the house since 97. And so there's lots of stuff in the house and lots of memories and some really big, hard decisions to make.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're thinking you're going to go through treatment, and your oncologist, at least at that point, had said with treatment around 5 years.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Was that a devastating amount of time? 5 years?
It wasn't long enough by any means, because I've got, my mom lived to be 97 and a half. People in her family lived to be 105, 106. So I was shooting for, 90-something anyway. What do I've got so many things I want to do. How am I going to do them? Am I going to be able to move back to my house when things are done?
Sure.
Do I rent it out? What am I going to do with it? And then we got out here and Dr. Shire said, no, that's because it's now in your blood.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, that's another shit damn hell.
Yeah.
In other words.
Yeah.
Because it is a death sentence.
Yeah. Well, 5 years, that seems short to me.
Great.
And obviously shorter than what you had hoped.
Great.
And Dr. Shire then says 3, and it seems like people are just whittling away at your life expectancy. That does seem really shitty.
It is. It's really very shitty. And so I've decided I'm going to do all the things I want to do.
Yeah.
Like going skydiving, which I should be skydiving right now.
I appreciate you taking the time.
Yeah,
You're supposed to be skydiving.
Yeah. And it didn't work out with family going, but there's a lot of things I want to do, and by golly, I'm going to do them.
Yeah. Was that a decision? It seems like a decision you proactively made. I've got this time. Was that a decision you made when in California, when you thought you had 5 years, you were like, I'm going to do everything I want to do? Or has that become something that you decided on after you heard 3 years? Or
that was after 3 years.
Okay.
Because there was always the hope that, the chemo might indeed just knock it on its ass and,
sure.
All would be well. And then I could have, 10, 15 years of remission and then, say goodnight, Irene. But not going to happen.
Right.
Right. Although I can't say it's not going to happen because it's not in my hands.
Right.
It's in God's hands.
You would accept it if it did.
Yeah.
But you're not expecting it.
Yeah. If it happened tomorrow, it happens tomorrow. If it happens 10 years from now, that's yay. Mm-hmm. I'm all for it.
Mm-hmm. This was your first time with chemotherapy, right? Because you didn't do any the first time. So tell me a little bit about how that was for you.
So chemotherapy, the chemo nurses at the Franklin Kaiser are just phenomenally wonderful people.
Yeah.
And the first time I went through chemo, my son was here.
Oh, really?
And my daughter was here, so both of them sat with me, and I had no problems. I had no vomiting. I had, none of the stuff you normally think about.
Even a week after or whatever?
No.
Nothing? No side effect?
No, except being tired all the time and just having absolutely no energy whatsoever.
Everybody expects vomiting and like all of that stuff that comes
and
along
hair
with
falling
and hair
out.
falling out.
Yeah, which I still have all
stuff.
mine, even though it's copper right now.
But I talk to patients a lot that have fatigue, and I think to a lot of people, it doesn't sound that bad because
you're just tired, right? It doesn't sound that bad, but this kind of fatigue is much more unpleasant than just being a little tired.
Yes. Yeah, it's frustrating because I'm a very independent person and I want to take care of myself, but just getting up and brushing my teeth and going to the bathroom and putting clean clothes on for the day, I'm exhausted. I'm ready to go back to bed. And it's like, no, this is not me. This is not who I am. I'm a lion. I go out and I help people. I help serve. I help, do eyeglass exams. I help doing food distribution and all that kind of stuff. And I can't even, I can barely get myself dressed. It took more of a mental toll on me than it did a physical toll.
And on top of all that, you're also living with a finite amount of time. And if that time is spent in bed or feeling tired, that time is spent. It's gone.
It's wasted.
Like you can't do anything.
Yeah.
You can't get it back.
Right. And I guess, too, the decision to just do all the things I want to do came from my being in the hospital last September, and I had a pulmonary embolism. I think that's when I was told it was in my bloodstream, and there's nothing they can do about it. So I thought, okay, the chemo's given me a pulmonary embolism. I'm not going through this one again.
Yeah.
I'm done.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's scary when you find out that the stuff that's supposed to make the cancer go away is made you sicker in some ways. And so that's when I decided I'm done with chemo. I'm not doing it anymore.
Did you make that decision after you got home out of the hospital, or was that something you said when somebody told you, oh, well, this happens with chemotherapy, you just said, well, to hell with chemotherapy, I'm not doing that anymore?
It was kind of one of those things that Amy and I looked at each other and said, oh, chemo caused this? We're done.
Yeah.
There wasn't any, there wasn't a week long, let's think about this, that type of thing. It's like, no, I'm done with that. I knew in my heart that it was not right. And, and I don't want to stop anybody from taking chemo that is going to get better, but there's just so many things that can go wrong, and chemo kills so many things in your body that you need to have.
Yeah. 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 I think that's, it's tricky, right? Because and I think every oncologist worth their salt will tell you there's trade-offs with chemotherapy,
yes,
right? And it's a little bit of a gamble because it's not for certain that the chemotherapy is going to work. And if it does work, in your case, it's not going to cure the cancer.
No.
It's going to prolong your life. And we don't know exactly how long. So it's a risk and there's trade-offs. And one of the trade-offs is you're more prone to clotting, right? And having these dangerous things happen to you. It's much easier to put yourself at risk for these side effects when you think on the other side, oh, I'm going to be rid of this cancer. That's a much easier thing to risk.
Right.
But if all we're doing is prolonging, then you have to think about, well, what is the quality of my life and what are the risks I'm putting myself at to take this? I really like what you said about I just knew in my heart, knew within myself, and your daughter confirmed that she knew within herself that this is not right for you.
Right.
And I don't want to discourage anybody from taking chemotherapy. There's nothing wrong with taking it. It's also okay to make that calculation and go, no, this isn't for me. It's fine.
Right. And not every therapy is good for you or is a good choice for you.
For you.
It may be that radiation would be better than the chemo or combination thereof or something. I don't know. After the pulmonary embolism, I thought, okay, I'm done.
Yeah.
I'll go check out alternative medicine and see what else we can come up with.
Sure. Did you talk to your oncologist, or was there another doc in the hospital when you made that choice? Did you talk to him about the implications of that choice?
No.
Okay.
Actually, I had an appointment with him, and Amy and I went in to see him because I always, always take somebody else with you. A second set of ears is always better than going by yourself, because you're too emotional and you don't always hear what's being said.
I will 100% back that up.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so Amy and I went in and said, okay, we're done with the chemo because of the embolism. He said, okay, do you understand, that it may grow faster? And, and yeah, we do.
You say anything about how much faster he thinks it might be?
No.
Okay.
Didn't ask.
You didn't ask.
Because I don't care.
Doesn't matter.
I mean, I do care, but
I know
it
you
doesn't
care,
matter.
but
it's, and it's one of those that, of course, Amy kind of took him aback because she said, so when do we go on hospice? What do you mean hospice? And it's like, because there's going to be the point where I'll have to be on hospice.
Sure.
And I've made all my arrangements.
Yeah.
Sold my house. Makes me sad, but sold my house, got all my stuff out here. I have my will, I have my trust, I have my cremation all set. I mean, everything's done. It's just waiting for me to say, see you around.
No, now all you have to do is live.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to, and everything's taken care of and almost paid for. And, I don't want my kids to have to worry about it. I even have my memorial service planned.
Oh, that's great.
Because I'm not leaving that up to kids that, one, are a different, faith tradition than I am. And I want it to be the way I want it to be, not the way they want it to be. And so I've got it all planned, and it's at the church in California.
Oh, okay.
And we're good to go.
You're going to travel back to California, huh?
In an urn, yes, I am. In a little tiny box.
All right.
Not a big one, because that gets awfully expensive.
Home, I need a little taste of home. Home, just a little taste of home. I need a little taste of
Hello, this is Cody Huffstedler, palliative care chaplain, host, and co-creator of Dying to Tell You. That's the podcast you're listening to right now. Chris, the producer of this podcast, and I are very excited that Season 3 of Dying to Tell You will start next week. We're so happy to bring you stories of ordinary people who are being transformed as they near the end of their lives. I think you'll find, more than ever before, that people who are coming to the end of their lives experience the full breadth of human emotion. And I think that's what you'll experience as you listen to these stories. These are stories of grief, loss, hope, joy, and love. But most importantly, these are stories about life and an experience that we will all have someday. So join us next week as we begin Season 3 of Dying to Tell You on your preferred podcast platform. Thank you so much for listening. Now back to Linda's story.
home. No matter where I go, a little taste of home. I need
Next week, we're going to the rodeo.
Yeah.
I get to look at the boys' buns and, enjoy myself.
Yeah.
I'll have to take my walker so I can get around okay instead of just my cane. But other than that, I just keeping in touch with my friends and finishing up the sale of my house, which hopefully will close sometime this next week. And then, onward and upward.
Yeah. You said you're going to, are you going to reschedule the skydiving?
Oh, yes. That's top of the unbucket list.
Yeah. What else is on the list?
I want to go whitewater rafting.
Oh, kidding.
I don't want to
Okay,
go
great.
on a 10 scale. Just a 3 or 2 would be sufficient just
Okay.
to, do that. I want to go back to some place like Savannah, Georgia to look at the architecture from the Civil War. And I'm going to take a cruise to Alaska during the summer. And just, things like that I've wanted to do forever and then some, and I'm going to do them.
Yeah, great. would you talk a little bit about your faith and how that has kind of informed your working through this illness and your decisions and all that?
Sure. My grandfather was an Episcopal priest. So when we were back at his church in Vermont, which wasn't all that often, unfortunately, we went every Sunday. He had no choice. Of
course. Yeah.
And in fact, quick aside, for Christmas, we were back there one year, and we had his church was right across the street from where the house was. And so we had service then, and then he had to come home and have breakfast so that he could go do a church service in Norwich. And then he had to come back and take a nap, and then he had to have lunch. And so by the time we got to open presents, it was 4:00 in the afternoon, and I'm 6 years old, and that doesn't cut
That's
it with
not-
me.
no.
It's just like,
That's
oh,
not
no,
okay.
no. But anyway, so I think the first time I saw him come out to the congregation in his robes, that's when I said, oh, that's what I want to be when I grow up.
Yeah.
That was in 1956. The Episcopal Church did not allow that then. But my grandfather, come to find out, wrote in his journals that he couldn't understand why women couldn't be priests because they were so much more loving and kind than and compassionate than men. So anyway, then life happened, and I had a number of aha moments. My my mother's mother had passed away. And there was an Episcopal church 2 blocks from my house that I never went to. And I decided that, on the way home from work, that I needed to stop at the church and go in and talk to God about what had happened. And so I get there, and there's a guy out watering some trees. And he said, "Can I help you?" And I said, "Yes, I'd like to get into the church for a few moments, if I may." And he said, "Sure, I'll let you in." I'm thinking, this guy's a gardener. So, of course, he's got, keys to the church, and so he can get in and do whatever he needs to. And when I was, about a half an hour later, when I was done, I came out, and there was the note on the car that said, "God told me to come and water the plants today. If you need me, here's my name and number," was the Reverend. So I thought, God's trying to tell you something, lady. And everybody kept saying, "You need to go to seminary." And I said, "No, one, I'm too old," because I was, in my late 40s at that point. And a couple of priests that we had there said, "Yeah, what's wrong with you? Why aren't you going to seminary?" I decided to start the process and started going back to school at the ripe old age of 50, and got my bachelor's at 55 and got my master's at 58.
Wow.
And did my CPE, the clinical pastoral education.
Training to become a chaplain.
Right,
Yeah.
at a hospital.
At a hospital.
Yeah, so which can be kind of interesting because at Loma Linda at the time, they didn't have a place where you had to, because I had to stay the night
Oh.
in the hospital because I lived too far away. I lived a minute outside of the 10-minute realm, and I got to sleep on the couch. They didn't have a bed for us.
Yeah.
And, you brush your teeth in the bathroom with everybody else coming in and out. But the rest of it was wonderful. I really enjoyed it. And that's where I was staying with a friend of mine, Reverend Mary Martin, who's since then passed from lung cancer. When I would come home and we would talk about my day and things that had gone on, and she said, "Okay, that one's go make a margarita for us." Or it was, "Just put on your big girl panties and deal with it, Linda." Okay. So, I've had a lot of really crazy friends, and I love them all to death. Anyway, so yeah, CPE was lots of fun, and I enjoyed it, and did a number of emergency baptisms for the NICU department.
I guess, what does that faith mean to you, or has that changed in the years since you did all that?
God's the one that's in charge, not me. And sometimes bad things happen to good people. It's just, but there's
What
a
do you make of
reason
that?
this is happening.
Okay. Tell me about that.
I knew you were going to ask that. I was like,
I mean, you don't have to have the reason, but tell me
No.
about that thought. Like, there's a reason this is happening, and so is the reason something you're going to know?
I'm beginning to think the reason it's happening is because I can help other people with it. Because of people like you that I've met, that I don't know how many people are going to listen to this.
Hopefully a lot.
Hopefully a lot, but and there's a reason why I'm supposed to be in this house. And to spend more time with my grandkids that are here, to spend more time with my daughter and my son-in-law. So that's, I'm not saying that God doesn't have a plan for us. I think maybe he does. Maybe she does. I don't know. I'm here for a reason.
Okay.
And I'm in Denver for a reason. That's what I do.
Yeah.
Is I can help.
Yeah. What do you want to do? Say you have another 3 years to live. What do you want to do with those 3 years? I know you want to go skydiving and whitewater rafting. Aside from those things, what do you want those 3 years to be about?
Helping others. I still want to help others. There's a program that became an endorsed project with the Lions in California called the Magic Yarn Project. And it's for making wigs for kids with cancer and giving them to the kids. And they're Aurora and Rapunzel and Jack Sparrow and Disney characters.
Oh, fun wigs.
Fun wigs. Yeah, not hair wigs.
This is fun.
But it is fun. And I do crochet some, and I knit, and I like to be crafty. In fact, Amy and I are going to put a she shed out there for our crafts. Anyway, I want to get into helping more to make the wigs. I want to find a Lions Club around here. Again, I want to go help at a library or someplace, as long as I can sit and get up and sit and get up. I want to help because that's what I do. And it's selfish because I get more enjoyment out of it than I think people that I help do, although that's sometimes questionable because when you are at a eyeglass examination thing that we would do in California, and you fit a grandmother who's not had the benefit of eyeglasses for years and years and years, you've got a pair of glasses that fit her, and she puts them on and starts crying because she can see her grandkids for the first time ever.
That's a good feeling.
That's a huge feeling for her, but it's an awesome feeling for me to be able to help and do that.
Yeah. Where does it come from for you? I mean, you can do anything, right? You can do whatever you want we can always do whatever we want with our lives. But you have a finite amount of time. You see your finish line coming. That's what I would say. You could spend that time doing pretty much anything, and what you want to do is help people. And I know you get something out of it, but I just wonder, like, you get something out of going to the beach too, and you get something out. Well, maybe not you. You get something out of going skydiving. You get something out of going to nice dinners. You get something out of spending time with friends. You get something out of almost everything you do. And I just wonder where that comes from for you. This desire to just be, as you said earlier, of service to others.
I think that was the way I was raised.
Okay.
My dad, being in the military, was gone all the time. He was probably temporary duty 6 months out of the year at least. But my mom was always giving. She was always part of the PTA and that kind of thing. And so it's just a continuation of giving and doing for others because it makes you happy.
Yeah. Well, it does. And it helps other people, and I like it.
Right.
High five. Good job.
Absolutely. It's just, and people who don't see that, it makes me very sad for them that they don't realize that inner joy and peace that you find by doing for others and giving to others. I have a diamond painting that I've done, and I'll take you in the bedroom and show it to you. But which I worked on when I was back in California, going through things to pack up my house, the final pack up to move out here, and it said, "Let that shit go." And it just, I still have a ton of stuff out in the garage that, things that I've had forever that it's really hard for me to get rid of, especially photographs. My dad was a photographer, and we never went on vacation because the Air Force would fall apart without him. And
So glad he stayed.
oh yeah. And so I don't have a whole lot of photographs from when I was little, but my first husband was a photographer. My third husband was a photographer. My son's a photographer. So I've accumulated boxes of photographs. Amazing. You look at it and you think, oh my gosh, really? But I can't get rid of them.
Yeah.
And so anyway, I get things like that to do too.
It's interesting that you said that about the let that shit go. As you were talking about helping people, I was thinking about the time that you have left and you wanting to help people. It seems like a thing in your life that you've practiced for a long time that people can't take away from you, at least at this point. And I think that's
they
really,
can't.
I think that's really nice that is something that you can hold on to. It doesn't have to be a burden. It's a thing that you do joyfully. It's always available to you, right? I mean, even if you can't do anything else, you can be here with your family and with your friends and, talk on the phone and help people out.
Yep.
And I think that's, you can let go of a lot of stuff. And if you got to hold on to one thing, giving back to other people, I think is a really great thing to hold on to.
Everything gets better when you are around. Everything gets better when you are around. Everything. Everything gets better when you are around. Everything gets better when you are around. Everything.
At some point you would need to have hospice support. So when will that be? When have you given that any thought? You're not on hospice right now, obviously.
No.
So when would be the time? What do you think?
With any kind of luck, never.
You think?
No. But with the way that I'm feeling now, I mean, it's hard to tell by looking at me or talking to me or being around me that there's anything wrong.
Well, you look fine to me.
Yeah, I look fine to me too. It's just the inside that's got all the crap going on. I'm hoping that similarly with my late husband that, hospice will be somewhat short and not for a couple of years yet.
Okay.
And then the end will come quickly.
So maybe one thing that we could talk about that might be helpful to other people is why not hospice right now?
Because there's nothing wrong with me. I don't feel like I have the need for hospice. I'll save that for down the road. I'm still getting along on my own. I, cook dinners here, probably 3 nights a week, or at least help with them. I've been dubbed the house mom. I take care of the house during the day. I make sure that, Mabel gets fed, although Amy does a lot of that. Makes, the kids get off to school and that kind of stuff. I don't need hospice yet.
Yeah. So you would need hospice when you need extra support,
Yes.
like extra help,
Right.
symptom management and things like that if you're feeling bad.
Right.
You don't need it right now because you don't feel bad and you don't need any kind of extra support, but you would know that you need that support when you start feeling bad. Some people, even after they start feeling bad, still want to go back to the hospital from time to time, if if something's going on that is easily reversible and that you can go into the hospital for a day or two and get something fixed, they would want to do that. And in that case, then you also wouldn't want hospice because you would want to go back to the hospital and get something fixed, and then you would get out. And then,
Right.
and in that case, you would just follow with palliative care like you have been doing until the time when you say, I don't want to go back to the hospital ever again. And then you would just stay home and have
Right.
hospice.
And at this point, I can still make all my own doctor appointments.
Right.
I need to get my glasses adjusted and have my eyes examined again because I think chemo tweaked my eyesight. But that's been a couple of months, and so I'm not in any. I can still see okay, so
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, whatever.
Obviously not in a hurry.
Yeah. And, I've taken care of things like getting my Colorado driver's license, and I got my Princess Parking plates.
Oh, nice.
That's what I call it, is Princess Parking, is I get to have handicap parking.
Awesome. What do you think it's going to be like when the time comes? Like when you are getting close to dying, how do you hope it's going to be, or how do you think it's going to be?
Well, I hope I'm totally at peace with myself and those around me. And then I just hope I get to go to sleep, and that'll be it.
I'll wake up.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's what happened with my late husband. My mom had come out to help me take care of him. So our mother and I had had our glass of wine, and he was slipping fairly rapidly. And so I went out to make dinner for the two of us, and she left her wine glass in the bedroom and went back to get it and came back and said, honey, I think you need to go see him. And so while I was out of the room for 20 minutes, he passed.
Okay.
So I went in and gave him hell because I said, you promised me I could be with you. And you lied. You lied. But
Gotcha.
anyway, so I just, and I know I'm going to be with him.
Mm-hmm.
And my oldest sister keeps saying that, hanging out here beats the alternative. And I keep thinking, no, I don't know. Going home to God and being with my mom and my dad and my late husband and, the grandparents. Now that sounds pretty choice too.
Yeah.
So I'm really at peace with that whole thing.
Your eyes kind of lit up when you said that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And not many people can say that, I'm afraid, that it's just, there's something about death. It's the unknown, and it's still unknown to me because I've not died and come back. But it just, to me, it would seem that it would be peaceful.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you do get to see your family.
Yeah. Yeah, that was going to be my next question is afterlife, what are your thoughts? It sounds like you think people are there waiting for you, your loved ones, and
And I wouldn't be surprised
place.
if Richard didn't come and greet me and take me home.
Mm-hmm. I hope that's true.
I hope that's true too.
Well, I think the last thing that I've asked almost everybody is, how do you want to be remembered?
That one I hadn't thought about. I know that there's people who are going to remember me as being harsh and demanding. And it's just because I want things to be right, maybe my way a little too much. But I think we all are there from time to time.
Sure.
But I want them to remember me as having a sense of humor and being a giving person.
Yeah.
And I hope that that's true with all the people. I mean, when I was district governor, and you had to go to all the clubs to visit them once a year, at least once a year. And so I would always start my hello, I'm so glad to be here, the normal chit chat. I want to tell you a story. There was this guy on the beach who looked down and saw somebody throwing something into the ocean. And so he would walk toward this person and he'd get closer and closer. And then he stopped and asked this kid, "What are you doing?" He said, "I'm throwing starfish into the ocean." "Well, you can't save them all. Why are you doing that? Look down the beach. There's miles of starfish and hundreds of them." And so the kid picked one up and threw it into the ocean and said, "I made a difference to that one."
Yeah.
I have earrings that a friend of mine gave me with starfish.
She's wearing them right now.
Yes. When I did my convention, the trophies that I gave out for, Lion of the Year and Best Club of the Year and that kind of stuff all had the starfish on them. So people would remember that story. And that to me is, you helped one.
Mm-hmm.
I can't help everybody, but I can help one.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you. Thanks for sharing all that.
Well, thank you for spending the time with me
No,
and
of
letting me
course.
share.
It
It's
was
been
great.
great to have both of you here.
Yeah, thank you. I think we did it. Do you think we did it? Are you feeling
Yes,
good?
I'm
You
feeling
feel
good.
happy?
Mm-hmm.
Anything else you want to say?
Nope. Just keep it up. And if there's anybody that I can talk to encourage them to just keep going.
Yeah. We'll look forward to footage of rafting and skydiving,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe we'll catch up in some months to see how things have been going, if that's all right.
Absolutely.
Cool.
Absolutely. And thank you for doing what you're doing.
Yeah, of course. It's fun. I'm enjoying it a lot. Once again, I'm inspired. Linda is coming to the end of her life. She's being forced to let go of some things, and she's choosing to let go of some things. I've said before that knowing that the end is coming brings some clarity, and Linda is clear that she's willing to let go of a lot of things. She let go of her desire to live into her 90s. She let go of California, and she let go of her home. But she's holding on to the things that are most important to her. Family, fun, and her commitment to service. So here's to Linda, and here's to letting that shit go. And here's to holding on to the things that bring life meaning. May we all go and do likewise. This is Dying to Tell You.